Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Public Works Committee of the Common Council. I'm calling our May 2nd meeting to order at 7:02. In attendance tonight, we have Lisa Shanahan, Tom Livingston, Brian Meek, Nora Najelski-Eichner, and myself, Barbara Smith. Darlene Young will be absent tonight, and Ed Camacho should be joining us shortly. The first item on the agenda is public input. Do we have anyone who would like to speak?
Yes, we currently have Diane Lauricella.
Okay, if you could go ahead and move her over. Okay.
Hello, Diane. Please unmute and you should be able to talk.
Thank you, Paul, and good evening, Chairwoman Smith and the members of the committee. For the record, my name is Diane Lauricella, 21 Little Fox Lane. I just wanted to speak on items 5A and B. I am a member of the Mayor's Water Quality Committee, and I thought that I had sent over, we had put together some recommendations after we read the MS4 from last year. And I'm sure you will go over with the staff that the municipal separate storm sewer systems, or MS4, is a permit due annually to be sent in. Oftentimes it is repeated wording, but the highlights, I noticed that we did not send that in yet. So before your Tuesday meeting, you will receive a copy of the Mayor's Water Quality Committee suggestions, and we look forward to working with DPW on some of our suggestions. Our main suggestion is to, we want to make sure that CDM Smith in their contract is going to also look at how to increase the public awareness, outreach, and education related to the MS4 project, including the fact that there is a document, an MS4 document. Most of the public that we talked with isn't aware of this important document. It's kind of like the bedrock Bible of stormwater management for our city, which is so important since we're a coastal city. Also, we're very happy there will be an update from, I guess, the last time it was updated. And lastly, would this company also help this committee to start looking into the possibility of a stormwater authority? Because it would help pay for many of the improvements needed in a stormwater management program. Lastly, I just want to say in 5B, the wording may have left out a phrase that I used to see in many of the requests for funding, and that is for 5B, should it say that cost overrun orders of $25,000, no greater than $25,000, would be handled by Ms. Valadares. It almost looks like there's two separate contracts, and usually the wording for 5B or the B section of these requests talks about cost overrun limits. So thank you for your time. I'll leave it on MS4 for today. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Lauricella. Is there anyone else who signed up to speak?
No, there's no one else, and that's it in the pack right now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so then I will close public input and move on to new business. Before I do so, I just want to mention that Vanessa Valadares and Chris Torrey are away at a waste management conference in New Orleans right now, learning all the latest, and we're looking forward to what they'll bring back for us. So we have Jim Meehan, our principal engineer, and Paul Sotnick, man in the fort here, as well as other members of the staff. Just wanted to mention that before we move on. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the Public Works Committee of the special meeting, first A, the special meeting of Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Any comments or questions? Mr. Livingston moves that item. Comments or changes? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the minutes of March 7th, please signify by raising your hand. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 4 in favor, opposed, abstentions. Okay. Ms. Nadjelski-Eichner, did you vote? I'm sure you were at that special meeting. Yeah, okay. Did you have comments? I can't hear you. Mr. Meek
Yes,
abstained.
I voted yes.
Okay, I missed it. Okay, so that's 1. All in favor, and Mr. Meek abstains. Sorry, I lost our number. I think we've got 6 now. Okay, and then moving on to item B, meeting of Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. Are there any changes, additions, deletions to those minutes?
On a motion?
Okay, Mr. Livingston moves it. Thank you, Mr. Livingston. And seeing none, all in favor of those minutes as they are, please raise your hand. That's 1, 2. I think there's only 2 of us. I think it was Ms. Young. We did not have a quorum at that meeting. So I think let's, oh, there's nothing we can do. So we have 2 in favor and then abstentions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 abstentions. Okay. All right. And so that is that. And let's move on to item number 2. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a second amendment to the March 11th, 2021 agreement between the city of Norwalk and AI Engineers, Inc. for project number DPW 2021-1 on-call engineering services. The amendment is to extend the agreement for a period of 1 year at a sum not to exceed $125 billable on an hourly basis with an option to extend for 1 additional term for 1 year, account numbers noted. Who would like to move that item, please? Ms. Nadjelski-Eichner moves it. Okay, and this is an extension of a contract. Jim, do you want to give us some details on where you're at with this particular item?
Yes, so basically, as relates to the others as well, we have on-call engineering services that has been, as you know, previously approved by the committee to use engineering services as needed for particular projects that are either specialized or something that is not in the not always available for within our own staff due to staffing requirements in other areas. So we use that on an as-needed basis.
Okay, and we've been happy with AI engineers, correct?
Yes, they've done good work before. They've done various work and they are quite skilled in special areas.
Great. Are there any questions or comments, Mr. Livingston? Not yet. We don't hear you yet.
Okay,
There
so
you
just to jump ahead to, because it's going to come up. So we have 3 of these extension of the on-call. So can you just talk about the difference in services being provided, if any? I understand that the desire to have, sort of options, but,
Yeah, no, that's okay. There's not specific, many of these companies have done particular types of work for us. They do various ones themselves. There's no specific ones. I'd rather not get into actual specializations because I might be misquoting them per se. But we do have to have, it is practical to have more than one firm on call at a particular time because we might have one particular project that requires additional work that others may not be available for at the particular moment. So it's always good to sort of have our grounds covered for that. So I do know that AI engineers themselves, not just for over here, I used to work with them on my previous municipality that I worked at. I know they are good in various areas. They do storm drainage for us. And Ty and Bond do a lot of highway work for us. All 3 companies basically do a lot of different variations. We just like to have a lot of different options available if needed.
great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Nadjelski-Eichner.
Do you have a sense of how much you've used for each of these contracts over the last year? Because I know we you know, they're as needed and we've set them up to, I think, up to 125. Do you have a sense of what we've actually used?
Offhand, I don't have that information myself. I'll have to check that with our records and confirm that with Vanessa. Something to that effect. Yeah, I've been here too much, so I know that I came here. They've already been working on a lot of our projects, but I really couldn't tell you exactly how much. I'll have to follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think Jim's pretty new and just, learning the ropes and working with some of these companies without Vanessa here. I think, if we need, we can email and get some, specific answers for the questions. But I did have a conversation with Vanessa before she went to the conference, and, her feeling on actually all three of these is, they each have their specialties. They have each been very valuable to the city, and Public Works has been very happy with their services and expertise. So, but if we have a specific question, Nora, we can email Vanessa and ask her that.
Yeah, I was just curious, I know we had a very good conversation a year ago about this, about the ways in which it really was more cost effective than trying to hire someone, because it gave us the opportunity to have all these specialists. And I was just kind of curious how the math had worked out. So not urgent. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Meek.
Yeah, two things. First, I'm just trying to figure out the taxonomy of the accounts that are referenced in this and the next three. It looks somewhat consistent until the bottom. It changes account numbers. What are the differences between those types of accounts?
I think Paul would handle that a little better. He knows the particular account. I'm still learning them myself.
Or Paul or Jim, do you want me to speak to that? I've got that listed down for those individual accounts for the council.
I'm sorry, Dan, you were
Go
breaking
ahead.
up. Can you
So
start again?
this includes their,
The
oh, I'm sorry
CO
about that.
Yeah, the CO code and then the APW.
Yeah, so this is Dan Stan, I'm the senior engineer. This is one of the project. Okay, so those are the two specific questions, right? So there's an operating account at the top. The 021C account is paving. The C0315 accounts are bridge projects.
So
or
don't
could
go
be bridge
through
project work.
Don't go through
Again,
all of them, please.
This is just an authorization if the event comes up that we need to avail ourselves of these services.
Yep,
Yep,
that's fine.
okay.
Don't go through all of them, please. Specifically
Okay,
at the bottom.
so the one you
what
need
it?
is the APW 04, 05, and
Yes, please,
07.
the
Brian,
APW accounts.
Councilman. Okay,
Mr. Meek, basically a cross section of all of the different types of
that's
work.
for the ARPA money. So under,
That's what I thought. Yeah, I didn't want to say without
Okay.
being, that's what I
And
thought.
and so there's no allocation designated here with respect to the laundry list of accounts.
Well, that would be based on what of the stuff we have.
not at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan, we're really having a rough time hearing you. You're breaking up.
I think I have an
Brian,
answer.
Yeah, and Brian, I think if one thing
I'm sorry
that I
about
can,
that.
yeah, no, it's okay. One thing I think that I can add is that all of the ARPA funding, and I think you think this happened before. I don't remember if this happened before or after you came on the council, but the ARPA funding is, but you're on finance, it's all going through finance and allocated through finance.
Okay,
If
fair
that's-
enough. The last thing I have on this are the next three items, and don't take it the wrong way. It's my beef to pick with finance. But I'm voting no on all city spending going forward until IT figures out how to allow members of the public to see other members of the public when they zoom into a meeting. Westport figured it out, they're signing off on our grand list. Maybe we could learn from them on how to do it. Until it happens, I'm just a no vote on everything. This business of isolating the public and making them feel like they're standing on an island because they want to zoom in needs to stop. Thanks. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay, any other questions on item 2? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. 4, 5, and opposed. Mr. Meek is opposed. And so that passes 5-1. Moving on to item number 3, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a second amendment to the March 11, 2021 agreement between the City of Norwalk and Ty and Bond, Inc. for project number DPW 2021-1 on-call engineering services. The amendment is to extend the agreement for a period of 1 year at a sum not to exceed $125,000 billable on an hourly basis with an option to extend for one additional term for 1 year, and those items those counts are noted as well. Do I have a motion? Mr. Livingston moves the item. Jim, any particular specialty of Ty and Bond that you'd like to comment on here?
No, we've used it for a considerable amount of paving, but quite frankly, as I said before, all these companies have various specialties. We find it useful to be able to call them up as needed. If Ty and Bond is working on one particular project, can't afford it in one, we can pull someone for some another project. That's why the idea is having the separate companies available if needed.
And I am aware we've been very pleased with Ty and Bond.
We've been very pleased, yes, indeed.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that item? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, Mr. Meek is opposed, and that passes 5-1. And moving on to item number 4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a second amendment to the March 11, 2021 agreement between the City of Norwalk and Weston and Sampson engineers for project number DPW 2021-1 on-call engineering services. The amendment is to extend the agreement for a period of 1 year at a sum not to exceed $125,000 billable on an hourly basis for an option to extend for one additional term for 1 year. Account numbers noted, and do I have a motion for that? Ms. Shanahan moves the item, same thing. That Weston and Sampson have been doing very fine work for us. I know Ms. Valadares has spoken very highly of them. Anybody else on staff want to comment on their work? Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Mr. Meek is opposed, and that passes 5-1. Okay, and moving on to item 5A and B, which I will read together. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement between the City of Norwalk and CDM Smith Inc. for professional engineering services for project DRG 2023-2 engineering services, municipal separate storm sewer system at MS4 for sum not to exceed $250,100. Account number noted. And 5B, authorize the Chief of Operations and Public Works to execute orders on the contract with CDM Smith Inc. for professional engineering services for project DRG 2023-2 engineering services, municipal separate storm sewer system MS4 for sum not to exceed $25,000. Account numbers noticed. Notice. Yes, noted. Sorry. And do I have a motion, please? Mr. Livingston moves items 5A and B. And yeah, so we just, this item, we need to make sure that we stay on top of deep regulations. We want to make sure that we're up to date with everything, but also we are able to look into the stormwater system. And as Ms. Laricella brought up, that many of us are interested in the Stormwater Authority. And so this will give us some more information around that. So Jim, you want to give us some more details?
Yes, so we are, as you stated, Barbara, we are looking to update our MS4 system. We are very impressed with the presentation by CDM. Both their qualifications, they've done work for us in the past. They've actually, a few years ago, wrote out our current stormwater manual that the city is using. They do a very good job with this, and the CTDEP has, for those of you who don't know, have updated their requirements a few years ago. So we want to make sure that everything that we have is up to date, and CDM themselves have done work not just for other municipalities, but other coastal municipalities in very similar type of situations. So we're very confident that this could be a good move forward. And as Diane has pointed out, one of the things that they're going to be asking for, they're looking to do a increased public awareness. That's one of the aspects of an MS4 report that's done. And anything else that's going to be required, that would be upon their analysis. They also gave the most reasonable prices as well in their proposals. So that's why we're very confident that this could be a good fit for the city.
Any questions? Or comments? Ms. Nadjelski-Eichner?
Just very quickly, and I know with Ms. Loricella's involvement, I'm sure that there will be, but what role, if any, is there for sort of public comment and or public sort of education throughout this process? I mean, as we've discussed in this committee many times, stormwater is an area where, you know, we have a lot of concern and a lot of need for people to sort of begin to understand the challenges that the city is going to be facing going forward over the next couple decades as the sea levels rise.
Well, first of all, I should point out that the MS4 requirements are not really have anything to do with sea level rising. That's a separate, that's part of our resilient Norwalk process there. What we do with it mostly is we deal with stormwater regulations and how that actually gets set about. So in regards to that, public input is typically done for any various reports that are done every year. You have to put it out once you have your preliminary report, you put it out to the public, and at that point, you actually wait for their input in terms of what they would like to see as possible improvements to be done, so something to that effect, and then it's put out as a final report to the state. Now, how that gets set and how it gets done differently, well, that will depend on how the CDM would actually analyze our system and make suggestions there.
If I can add something there, you know, I think, you know, moving forward with this item, I think marks publicly, you know, us really making that commitment as a city to seriously look at stormwater. You know, we've been talking about it for a couple of years now amongst ourselves. Now, you know, with the sustainability committee looking at it, you know, we took that trip up to New London and learned what they are doing. But now this gives us the opportunity to really move forward, and then to really, you know, just through our committees too, we will be, you know, informing the public about what's going on. So just wanted to add that.
Yes, thank you, Barbara.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? And that passes 5-1 with Mr. Meek, a no. All right. So moving on to information and discussion. Paul, are you able to give us a tree operations and programming report?
Yes, and maybe we'll give you some really good news. At this point in the season, with the variety of locations that we have either staked out or placed orders for, or going to in the very near future, we've got 120 locations plus or minus for trees to be planted. And with what we've got coming up between some of the housing authority sites and some of the other locations, in addition to what Tom and Lisa just mentioned over on Woodchuck Lane and Rowayton Avenue there after the bridge project last year, we probably got another, I'd say 50, 60. So we're going to be probably well in the 200 range for the spring of 2023.
Great.
Couple of other items that I'll just mention too. There was a very successful Earth Day event that was organized by a group of people led by Audrey Crozan and Brad and Tracy Craighead. That the Department of Public Works had a table at Operations, had one for the bootstraps, and then the Tree Advisory Committee and Public Works had a table also for our tree planting program. And as part of the ceremony, we planted 3 sugar maple trees on the green on the 22nd of April. One other thing that I wanted to mention too, back on the 26th of April, Wednesday of last week, we had an Arbor Day cleanup event that we had 5 different tree companies, including DPW, come and do work on the southern end of the Norwalk River Valley Trail. That was pretty successful and we were happy. It was all volunteer work that was done for half a day by the local tree companies at no cost to the city. And then last Friday, we also had the event at Rowayton Elementary School for Arbor Day with Principal Cummings and the rest of the people that attended, including yourself, Chairperson Smith, and Councilpersons Livingston and Shanahan and Ajelski Eichner were all there. And it was a very successful event. And we planted 2, they were Yoshino cherry trees at the school. So those are just some of the items that have taken place for the tree programs over the last month.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions? I love those Arbor Day events at the elementary schools. It's just the kids just always do such a beautiful job singing and, you know, their poems and art. It's really a wonderful event. And I feel very lucky that I've been able to attend the last 2 years. So thanks for all of your work, Paul, organizing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so in terms of the monthly solid waste report and the food scrap report, Chris is off at the conference. So if anyone has any questions, I would just recommend you email, give Chris and Vanessa, drop them an email. And so we'll move on to the upcoming project status under construction. So I don't know who's going to take which. Jim, you want to get us started?
Yeah, we could start with the construction projects themselves. We'll just do them in order over here. First one, the Dreamy Hollow storm drainage improvements. Drew, you want to take give a description of that now, update?
Sure. Over at Dreamy Hollow, we've begun driving piles. So that we're going to have a lot of activity over there, driving piles, pouring pile caps, and then installing our piping on top of those systems. So that's a critical aspect, big part of our project, because it involves pouring concrete on top of the pile caps. It's a little bit more involved and it's a little bit of a slower process, but it's an imperative part of what we're doing to make sure that that what we install is going to stay at the grades that we set all these pipes at. Second on the list is the pavement management program. We've got our pre-existing contract with Grasso, which we're finishing up this year. They finished a lot of the prep on Richards Avenue, so we expect that that's going to be finished shortly after they finish the sidewalks on Flax Hill Road and Woodchuck. So they're doing the sidewalks on Flax Hill Road between Highland Avenue and the Darien line, the Woodchuck, and also a small piece over the Rowayton Bridge. We're also going to be paving Aiken and Richards between Route 1 and West Cedar through that same contract. We met with our new paving contract this year, which is with Burns Construction. They have the contract for this current year. We've met with them. We've started making plans, and it sounds like they're going to get started as early as next week. We're going to start our work up in the northern portion of Norwalk near Bain and West Rocks Road. There's a small piece of West Rocks Road that hasn't been completed yet, which we're actively prepping for. Bain Street. Dan and his crew's gotten some ADA ramps done in advance of us on Bain. And we're going to be starting on the side streets in that neighborhood and then working to the larger streets. We also have Buckingham and Elmwood on our radar. Those were already prepped with concrete work, and so they're ready for a mill and pave as soon as we get the milling machine over there. We just have to do a couple of test strips next week first and get those to pass before we go full production with paving.
Okay, great. It's good to see those projects getting started for the spring. Mr. Meek, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. Glad to hear about West Rocks. My question's about Bain Street, because I've seen all those ADA ramps going in. Are we connecting those with footpaths once those are done?
There's
So
going to be-
currently, go ahead.
Go ahead, Drew.
So currently, we're going to be replacing the existing walkways with appropriate width footpaths. So if we're deficient on a 5-foot walk anywhere, we're going to be establishing the current goal of the 5-foot width sidewalk, and we're going to see if we can achieve a decent grass strip, because we know that with tree planting being an important aspect of what we're trying to focus on, we're looking into how much space we can gain potentially to accommodate that. The ADA ramps are to accommodate some crossings where I guess are known crossings where people cross Bain Street, and also for potential future connections, possibly where there's some where some of those side streets are.
So to clarify that, some of those ADA ramps that you have in there may not be connected. There's one on the bottom of East Rocks that never had a footpath. It's just sitting there by itself. And I believe one on the southern edge of Live Oak. Well, besides it being 2 feet into the road where it never was, there was nothing leading up to it. It just kind of looks a little silly to me to have the ADA ramp sitting there by itself with nothing connecting it.
Yeah, our role as part of the paving contract is just to deal with the existing sidewalks, and the city may be looking into future sidewalks, but at this time, DPW's focus is on the existing replacement of the existing walkways.
Oh, okay. Are we going to encourage the homeowner to connect those at all in any way?
There may be future plans whenever we actually go to maybe as we reach the point where we're actually going to pave those side streets. So some of those side streets may not be currently proposed for paving, and any new sidewalks, typically we do get the TMP is another department. They typically try to focus on where we might need new sidewalks that don't previously exist, and DPW's main focus is on the existing sidewalks.
Okay.
And maybe a small connection where we're replacing the sidewalks on either side of a small gap.
Okay, so anecdotal, but at the bottom of Grumman on Newtown, the state, that's Route 53, the state built one of those ramps like 10 years ago, and it's just sitting there by itself. I don't know. I guess you could wheel your wheelchair up there and sit there by yourself, but you're not going anywhere else. I hope those don't sit out there too long in a naked fashion. That's just my 2 cents. I'm not expecting a response. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions for Drew? Okay, moving on. Drew, are you continuing?
The next one, Dan, we're talking about curbs and sidewalks at various locations. Dan, you able to give an update on that?
Yes, I'll try. Hopefully you can hear me better. I apologize for before. I've kept the video off just to make sure that I focus on what I'm saying. So Drew alluded to this earlier. We've got several contracts under construction. The first one is the sidewalks and curbs at various locations. As Drew said, Bain was one of those. This program is in preparation for paving, and we're moving along to stay ahead of paving where they can release that. There's sidewalks on Sangan Morton that are going in. Currently, the contractor is working on Morton. They're about 25% of the way complete with the sidewalks that will eventually connect Taylor and Scribner at that location.
Any questions there? Okay, moving on.
I
Call
guess
drainage.
the next one is on-call drainage.
Yes.
So Mario's team has put together some improvements. We've identified some localized repairs. There's some point repairs that are being made in anticipation of where we're going to pave in the Bain Street area. Also, there is, I believe it's Watson. We identified some storm improvements that we can make prior to paving in the Highland area. And so I've been meeting up with Mario and our drainage team to identify any deficiencies within our existing infrastructure that might need to be addressed before we pave, to ensure that once we pave, minimize any risk of having to dig up the new road to make any kind of repairs there.
Hey, Drew, do you anticipate this slowing down the repaving of Highland?
No, there's none of this proposed on-call drainage work on Highland itself. It's on Watson, which is another street that we plan on paving in that area, in that
Okay,
vicinity.
thanks.
Anything else for drainage? Okay, Calf Pasture Beach parking. We're all, excited about hearing an update there. It's been several weeks since I've driven down there, but I know that it's moving along well and we're on target.
Correct. Obviously, this is Dan again. We're looking at a completion date for the opening of the season on May 15th. We continue on schedule. The work remaining at this time, the lot is substantially paved. Some small markings need to be performed. The thermoplastic beach imagery for the pedestrian walk area needs to be applied. Some of that's obviously weather permitting here. Hopefully we get some good sunny days and get that in place over the course of the next 10 days. And then that will be followed by bollards at that location to, again, protect the pedestrians and to guide drivers through the parking lot itself. And then that'll be followed by, the grand opening and punch list items around the site.
Great. Any questions? All right, looking forward to seeing that finished and ready for the season. Breeze Park, the railing.
At Breeze Park, GeoCorp has been out there working. They've been actively installing rails along the top of the retaining walls, and also started to construct the pillars that are needed for new locations that the pillars don't exist today. So it's coming along well, and they're continuing with that work.
Okay, thank you. Any questions there?
I was
right.
Yeah,
moving
what's the ETA on Freeze Park?
Yeah, that was my question too. Yeah.
And Breeze Park, they've been told that they're supposed to complete their work, substantially be out of the park by the end of May. So they've got that. There is one other location on the south side of Wall Street that we've got some work to do, but we're waiting to do some sidewalk repairs there so that they can then come back and do the railing on that side. But the park itself, they'll be out of by the end of May.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thanks. How about Connecticut DOT projects?
Yeah, I can start with Strawberry Hill Avenue. The paving has been completed. Right now, they have the final pavement markings to do on Strawberry Hill Avenue, which should be done in the next week or so. They have a driveway apron on the northeast side of the bridge to do. It's directly across from Beacon Street. That and the fence and gate to go across that area, that should be in with the materials for the fence by the end of the month. Final traffic signal adjustments to make now that the construction lanes for temporary lanes have been taken out and the new final paved lanes have been put in. So they've just got some adjustments to do with the signal heads and topsoil and seeding, and that work should be done all by the end of the month of May. Although they do have some work under on the beams on I-95 that will probably take them, their completion date on that is June 14th. The
Okay,
next one,
Mr. Make, no, Mr. Make, I thought you might have a question or two. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for getting it paved finally. The little contractor yard there on that would be the northeast corner. There's a good probably 20-yard dirt pile, about 12 feet high, bunch of equipment. What happens with that yard when the project is hopefully done some year?
that has to be totally removed and taken out of there. It's in DOT's right of way. That property actually belongs to them, but they're supposed to topsoil and seed that area and then putting a gate across it so that they, in the future, can get into it to clean out manholes related to the storm drainage and get access to those. But that'll all be cleaned up, and that yard is not going to be a construction yard to remain. It'll all be gone.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be good when we really finally see that all done. It's been ongoing for so long, and I know the state had significant delays with supply chain issues, and so it's good that it's getting done finally.
And the work for the I-95 median project is continuing. They've done a lot of work over on Hendricks Avenue now. We've gotten another commitment. We're supposed to have another meeting next week with the final landscaping plan from the state for that area along Hendricks and East Avenue. That's now been re-landscaped when they moved the parking lot over the top of the drainage infiltration system. So that significantly improved that area. And the work that they're doing down on Hendricks between the two projects, the Yankee Doodle and the I-95 median, is moving along. And that particular project, the median project, they're doing work all along the highway now and in Westport. So it's continuing at a pretty good pace.
Okay. Any further questions? Or other projects that we need to go over there? Okay, and then finally, permanent roadway repairs and surface restoration.
That work should be, I know that they've identified a good amount of the locations, markouts for those locations. These are repairs that we bill out to permit holders. So they pay a restoration fee. We ensure that those repairs get made and that they get made to our standard. And that's what that contract's for. So that's an annual contract that we put out. We always collect road restoration fees with each permit that we issue, or we have an agreement with the utility company if it means them doing more extensive work like a full road repave. So I know that contract has been executed. I know that we've met with the contractor, and I know that they've actively identified where those patches are. I'm not sure exactly what the start date is on that. I would have to check with our permitting staff on that. So I'm just speaking on their behalf.
Drew, that's about a third complete at this point with Burns that is performing that work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments about the construction projects? Okay, well, that that wraps it up for us for tonight. Are there any other comments regarding any other items that anyone would like to bring up before we adjourn? Nope. Okay, so I'll take a motion to adjourn. Ms. Shanahan. All right, all in favor? All right, good night, everyone.
Aye.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.